After months of leaked reports and us covering all of the rumors and leaks that could have honestly intentionally been by Meta, finally there's something at least mostly official coming directly from Meta themselves about this new Quest 3S. For those of you new here, the Quest 3S is a version of the Quest 3 that's considered kind of a light headset. It's got basically the same internals as the Quest 3, but the older style screens and lenses of the Quest 2 and some other cost-saving measures to make it basically a cheaper, easier to get into the market headset. But basically on the official Meta support page, a whole article popped up talking about what the new action button that's been spotted on the bottom of the Quest 3S is, saying that now there will be a dedicated button to switch through pass-through and immersive mode, thus replacing the need to double tap the side of your headset, a feature that I've talked about many times on the channel not liking because it seems like it's more when you go to grab, adjust the headset or move it that people accidentally end up in pass-through because of that. Now this button would be dedicated to switching back and forth between them. The official support page also going on to talk about status display light colors on the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S and how they're equipped with two different types of status display lights. One that is a bystander signaling light, similar to how the Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses have a light on them to warn people if you're recording. The same thing goes with the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S. A light comes on the front if you're in pass-through, trying to tell people, hey, basically I can see you. And this was after in the files, the first official from Meta picture of the Quest 3S actually popped up, meaning even though Meta hasn't made an official announcement, we're finally seeing definitive names, definitive pictures from them, telling us that all these rumors and leaks over the last several months seem to be correct, and our belief that this thing will launch at Connect this year seems to be on track. It's still wild that we're like barely 10 days from Connect itself and there hasn't been anything official yet. It feels like we know everything there is to know about the headset. If you haven't caught many of those videos, I'll leave some links at the end of this video that do break down exactly what the headset's got, specs wise, price, release date, all the things that we think we know about the headset. Update V69 is officially out for the Quest, and we talked about that in the last news video. But weirdly, in the updates, some people had the update show up early, others had it show up in waves, and we had to restart, force update on the headset to get it to push through. Weirdly, one thing that another YouTuber, Tyrell Wood, saw in between those updates was some features showed up on the Quest 3 that looked like they really shouldn't be there. Local dimming actually showed up on the Quest 3, which is a feature generally reserved for the Quest Pro at this point, but this caused Tyrell to question, is this supposed single fast switch LCD screen for the Quest 3S also capable of local dimming, and did this setting show up on the Quest 3 when this is reserved for the new Quest 3S? If so, this would actually give the Quest 3S one advantage over the Quest 3, two if you consider the action button a second advantage, but it is possible LCD screens on TVs and such can have local dimming if the feature is built in, or it's possible this was just a Quest Pro feature that ended up on that menu instead. Whatever it means, it's interesting to see that it's there. Between that and the other specs, it still isn't making me think anyone's going to want to replace their Quest 3 with the Quest 3S, but it would make the 3S the most attractive entry-level headset to come in at its price point, and people who got it could still feel good about the fact that it would have some features that the Quest 3 doesn't have even. Hitman 3 VR Reloaded was Hitman 3 fully redesigned for the Quest and for VR, and was one of the titles I was the most excited about for the end of the year. Then it launched to very rough reviews, people talking about the graphics, people having issues with the gameplay, and many reviews just calling it total crap. The reviews that were taking a bit of a more lenient approach, saying, well, at least if they had waited another 6 months, it probably could have been pulled off better. Well, they got their big day 4 patch out that was supposed to make the game look better and play better, with different reviewers and publications saying, okay, it at least did make it look better. It's still not great, but things don't look as jagged. Lighting is better and went more from a ew to more of an awe type of moment. But other big reviewers like Gamertag saying on Twitter, got back in, tried the new patch, still wasn't worth it. But some publications like Upload VR talking about how it may have fixed some of these things, but some of the later missions felt even worse. Now as they tried to up the graphics, some of them are stuttering worse. Some of the gameplay doesn't feel even as smooth as it did before, which admittedly wasn't smooth at all. But then we've got other people saying that it doesn't matter. Once you get in the game, the looks aren't really what matters. It's the core gameplay, and the game is still really good. So I'm curious, if you've been playing it, if you got through that patch, how are you feeling about it right now? Is it more worth it than it was then? Were you enjoying it before? Let me know. In another one of his AMA series, Boz over at Meta talked about the future of AR, VR, what's going on at Meta. And we've known for a while now there's supposed to be some sort of groundbreaking AR headset, something that feels more like a regular pair of glasses that people at Connect are going to get to demo and try out. And earlier this year, they had announced that supposedly this thing would even launch this year, at least internally, for people at Meta to start using. Ultimately, Boz talking about how they do do want Meta Connect to be seen as a developer conference. They want to take care of the developers, and this was a theme we saw a lot last year at Connect 2. Boz definitely liked repeatedly using the word groundbreaking, but admits to being biased as he is part of Meta. He thinks what they're going to announce and show off is going to really turn some heads about the trajectory in the future of VR and MR. This coming on the heels of them closing down their AR Spark division, but ultimately it does have me excited about going to Connect and seeing what the announcements are going to be. Last year felt a little weird because it was like the Quest 3 was the big thing we were excited about. They talked about for a few minutes and then went on and on about AI. I don't know if this year is going to be the same thing as the Quest 3S, going to be a very brief announcement at the beginning, but if they're going to continue to talk about AR glasses in the future of that, at least that's something I think that interests me and all of you out there more. We'll have reports as soon as we can from what we get to see and test there here for you on the channel, so watch out for those. Co-location is a feature that can make mixed reality seem a lot more immersive and allow people to actually play it cooperatively or competitively inside their headsets. Basically, by sharing the location features, you can see the exact same features of mixed reality in the same spots in your home. So instead of trying to align a game board or something each together to where you can walk around it, it would automatically do this. And Trackcraft seems to be one of the first games that's really nailing it, letting people play together and seeing the exact same thing in the same locations in the room. You can even cooperatively work here as you see people building the tracks together. And me personally, I think any game that lets you have level editors and things you can create, it always adds an extra layer of fun to a game. And the cool thing with this game is a Quest 3 is required to host it, but Quest 2 and Quest Pro can join in a co-located session. So that means if you're someone who got the Quest 3 and you still have a Quest 2 laying around, this is something you can actually try together to see what this is like. It makes me imagine a future if they really are dropping these extremely lightweight AR glasses where you could have your home set up to where when people come over for a movie night or something, everyone has their own AR glasses on, and yet when they walk in, they see a screen placed in the same spot. They see a game board in the same place. We're a long ways from things feeling that flawless and flowing together that well, but it's a neat future to think about. It seems like long dead are the days of people saying VR's dead, it's a dead technology, it's never going to take off, and it's being taken more seriously, especially as we see Vario headsets being used to actually train pilots to fly F-16s. It has not been unfamiliar for VR, AR to be used in the military training field, but this is pretty big to see that basically the Ukrainian president had talked about the fact that they have these new planes to use, but they don't have enough trained pilots, and so to help make up for this, they're using a Vario XR3MR headset with an actual replica F-16C cockpit and helping them train in this way to be prepared for flying the real thing. It feels like VR is being taken more and more seriously all the time as we see these training programs implemented, but I'm curious how many of you out there have ever actually worked at a place that used VR for any sort of training? We know that UPS did, Walmart did, there's many others, but I'm curious, are there actually a lot of real world people that have come into a place to work and they're like, hey, here's a VR headset, let's train you? There was some big announcements from Sony this last week that created a lot of debate about whether it's worth the new price, but basically a PS5 Pro model is coming out around $700. And although personally, as someone who owns two PS5s, I'm not sure if a Pro is anywhere in my future for flat gaming, but the fact that they're talking about this could automatically upscale PSVR 2 games does have me thinking about a Pro model. Although $700 is a ton of money to spend on it, I remember that in the days of PSVR 1, when the PS4 Pro came out, people were buying it just for that little bit of extra graphical fidelity because they wanted to feel that VR get as immersive as possible. One of the big features of this PS5 Pro is going to be its PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR. And in an interview with CNET, Sony said from the start, the flat screen PlayStation game library will benefit from this feature, but it won't support VR games at launch. In a future firmware update, it will work with all VR games though, meaning that every PSVR 2 game could benefit from this technology and look even better. This coming as PSVR 2 was kind of losing its steam around being a VR headset for the console, but then they announced the Steam usage for PC. People were more excited about the PSVR 2 again, and a price cut really made it push a lot of sales out there. And on top of that, there's news that Sony is dropping their new XR headset this year, not something that would be intended at all for the PS5, but an actual enterprise business use headset, which we actually saw things about revealing even as early as CES this year in Vegas. This would be a high-end XR headset, something more in the likes of the Apple Vision Pro. So at least the good news here is Sony is still in the realm of XR. They're not giving up on it, even with the lackluster sales of the PSVR 2, but it does make me worry that their future they'll move more into the enterprise side like HTC has done, and does that mean we'll still continue to see good gaming experiences from them down the road? And speaking of the Apple Vision Pro, just as Apple announces a new iPhone that people are already going after and trying to get, we're starting to talk about how Apple's next headset and what it could look like, as they are claiming the Apple Vision Pro has been a success in their opinion, but they're testing the use of regular OLED panels instead of the micro that we saw in the original, which could really lower the prices of the Apple headsets. OLED panels with a much lower pixel density though of around 1500 ppi versus the 3400 that was in the Apple Vision Pro, but this could possibly be enough of a cost-cutting measure that a second Apple Vision Pro or an Apple Vision Pro Lite could be as cheap as $1,500 or even $2,000. Would that tempt you into the Apple VR ecosystem if they did that? If you could get one for $1,500 that basically had the same features as the Apple Vision Pro now, but just didn't have nearly as good looking of a screen, would it be worth it to you at that price? Much more approachable than $3,500, I'll say that much. It's been a busy time in VR. It feels like the holiday season is really starting to take off and there's a lot going on. I'm personally taking off for Florida next week for some big VR events and then over to MetaConnect after that. So you'll see a little bit of a change in the content schedule that you're used to here, but we're still going to be shooting for posting something every day, daily for you to check out. We also just started our first ever Quest 3S giveaway. If you missed that out, I'll leave a link down in the description down below. But the reason that we went to Germany, that we're going to Florida Connect, is all because of all of your support out there. You've pushed this channel so far over the years. We just hit 85,000 subscribers thanks to all of you. So thank you so much for being here with me, supporting us every day. It really means a lot to me. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in another reality.